This is Thunder in the Desert, Shaman in the Desert Shaman. Well, this latest development that I want to talk about is, of course, the drone incident. If anybody out there is following this, they're crashing model airplanes into the Kremlin. Oh, they made a big deal out of this, didn't they? And it will be a big deal. No matter how you look at it, the Russians are mulling this over and biding their time. Imagine a drone crashing into the dome of the White House. It's the same thing. They crashed a drone into the White House of the Russian Federation, the Kremlin. So I kind of heard that this might happen before it happened, and so it really didn't surprise me all that much. But immediately what came to my mind, thinking back into the years gone by with the, let's say, native tribes warring with one another. Sometimes they did a thing called counting coup. It was an honorable thing. Of course, what I'm talking about with the Kremlin isn't so honorable, but there are parallels that you can draw. So in the old days, in the Old West, and, in the days of the tribes and the blue coats and all that stuff, Native Americans would sometimes count coup with a staff or a war lance. They would ride right into the middle of their enemy and whack them on the head and ride away. And that was sometimes more honorable or courageous than like hand-to-hand combat or outright killing each other with lances and bows and that type of thing. But there was honor in that. I mean, it was like you didn't really kill your enemy. You weren't out to kill your enemy that day. You were only out to prove a point. So the parallel I'll draw with this is they were out to prove a point. The West, Ukraine, the Ukrainian Secret Service or the Ukrainian Special Forces or whatever were out to prove a point. They touched Putin's residence. That's where he sometimes stays. Now, Putin isn't going to take kindly to this, or the people in Russia are not going to take kindly to this. There will be pressure, and there probably already is pressure as far as public opinion goes in Russia. A lot of it would be, let's just go in and fucking kick ass and take names. Get this shit over with. This is going on. This is, it's starting to... And this happened right before a Victory Day celebration, which is on May 9th. Where they celebrate past accomplishments and past successes in battles, like World War II. And I think what the people do is even march down the street with pictures of their loved ones who fought in the war. Veterans, that are long gone, but that they still admire. I think you could almost draw parallels to that and in a strange twisting kind of way to the celebration of the Day of the Dead by the Mexican people, whatever, or in honoring it. I might be stretching it a little with that, but let's put it this way: it's a big day for them. It's a great, they had parades lined up. They have dignitaries from foreign nations there. They have a lot of people coming in that exact area where the drone crashed or whatever. Now, when you look at the logistics behind it, when you look at the actual threat behind it, there really is barely any. Now, when you saw the flame, if you were looking at the videos, if you saw the flame, that was aviation fuel. That wasn't an explosion. If it was an explosion, the whole goddamn top of the dome would have been blown off. It wasn't an explosion. It was a kind of a model airplane, the way I look at it as a pilot, kind of a model airplane that buzzed in there and either got caught at the last minute with some type of electronic warfare. I didn't see another missile coming in and hitting it or another object coming in, so my deduction is that they used some kind of electronic warfare. Or they didn't use anything at all. It just crashed into the dome and aviation fuel spilled all over the place and burned. It made a great little show. But whoever is behind this, okay, is playing with fire. I mean, you could think of all kinds of scenarios. What if Russia did it to themselves? You know, and I'm not saying they did, but if you want to consider scenarios, Russia could have done it to themselves to give a reason, like they need one, but to give a reason for ramping up radically. Now, I know they don't really need, they don't really need to do that to have an excuse to ramp up, but it is an excuse. And the other side, having done this, which I feel is probably what's going on here, gave them an excuse to ramp up. Now, if you're on the other side, why would you want to give Russians an excuse to ramp up? Why would you want them to get even more intense than they already are? These are questions that you have to reflect on when something like this happens. You can't just... And Russia is not doing any kind of knee-jerk reaction, which tells me a lot that, cooler heads are prevailing. Putin's a pretty cool head. Medvedev, I'll get that name right one of these days. Medvedev, who used to be the president of Russia, is hard-line. He's very, very hard-line. He would probably retaliate in a heartbeat, but those in control mull things over, and they look and they see what their response is going to be. There have always been responses to incidents of this nature, and this is kind of like taking it outside the realm here when you do something like that right before the victory day and you hit Putin's palace, and then of course all the newspapers and news outlets will say things like it was a assassination attempt. Pretty piss poor one. That's all I got to say. And it didn't really accomplish anything other than pissing the Russians off. Do we really want to piss off people that have hundreds and thousands of nuclear warheads spread all over the continent there at a moment's notice, could push the button, okay? What is the West thinking? Because, this all boils down to the West. You can't lay this whole thing on Ukraine. They're controlled by the West. So what is the West, winking, blinking, and nod, the adolescents in the White House, what are they thinking right now? So you got to strategize on this and think about, well, what's their goal? To get Russia to jump in ahead of maybe a scheduled offensive that they have planned? To throw them off time, off balance? Well, I think that's a distinct possibility. Throw them off their game, right? The Russians have things all planned out. I'm sure they do for their offensive. They have strategy in place. So what do? Do they let some incident like this, which really is trivial in a way. It's on a physical level, it's trivial. On a psychological level, well, it's huge. It's huge because, again, we get back to public opinion, and this is what they're trying to undermine in the West. They're trying to sway public opinion to force Putin out of office, or, have them make mistakes or lose their cool or whatever. Ain't going to happen. They will mull it over and they will decide some very strategic. There's two things as a strategist I see happening here. Possibly three. One would be just to zero in on Kiev, which is headquarters for all kinds of military units and, the heads of the government and everything. Zero in on that and just decimate it. Now, I don't think they're going to take out Zelensky, because I heard he's in Finland. Wow, what great timing, huh? Well, what does that tell you? It tells you that he knew what was going on way before it was going on. He okayed it, and he thought he better get the hell out of Dodge for a while. I don't know if that'll do him any good. So the first response could be to go into Kiev, although I don't know that just that would do a lot of good right now. Or the second response would be to just blanket the whole Ukraine with bombs, carpet bombs, and hypersonic missiles, and just blow the fuck out of everything. Take out the infrastructure, the trains, the bridges, the communication systems. Just shut it all down. All boom. Just like that, Bing, bang, boom. Bada bing, bada boom. How's that? Bada bing, bada boom. So don't think this is going to go unanswered. It's not. It will produce a reaction of sorts. Now let's see. What was the third option that I think that they could pull here? Let's see. We got the Kiev. We got the whole of Ukraine. I mean, how many more do you have, really? A huge statement has to be made, let's put it that way. It can't be just... Because the West is always looking at the response to see if this response is going to be weak, or... It's a wicked web they weave here on all levels. And it's dangerous. It's a dangerous thing, because what we're talking about here is, again, a lot about perception, okay? So any kind of mistake could happen in a situation like this if it gets ramped up and wound up into a frenzy of sorts, okay? Now, we are reaching a point in this war where it is going to be more of a frenzy and a chaotic thing. I mean, it's getting to that point now. It has to. It's been going on too long. There's been too many incursions, deep incursions. Here's another thing, too. While this is all going on, tell me timing isn't everything with these idiots. They have this General Milley comes out and making wild claims about there being 250,000 Russian casualties, and they're taking huge casualties. So this isn't coincidental. This is a concerted effort to keep ramping up the propaganda war, which is just as important and relates back to what I was saying before about counting coup. Propaganda. Oh, look what we did to them. We came into their own territory and whacked them. Now, whether Putin is actually whacked or not is irrelevant. It's like, look what we could do if we wanted to, okay? And you got to wonder, I mean, getting back to why this all took place, you got to wonder how a drone got through Russian defense, air defense. Seems like it would have had to have been launched from inside Russia, almost like 2 or 3 blocks away or a mile or 2 away. Under the radar, so to speak. And drones are small, yeah, I mean, you know, they sometimes can evade radar detection. And they can be painted with certain things that lend to that, you know, that stealth mode. There are stealth modes on aircraft and helicopters. Quiet modes, stealth modes, hush modes. So anyway, it is what it is. They did what they did. Now I'm just, you know, I could have come on last night, and yeah, I like to inform my viewers and readers, incidentally, now that Substack, I've had several good, 2 or 3 good articles out there. People are subscribing. I suggest that you subscribe. If you want to read some of my writings, subscribe to Substack, and it's in the show notes below. And you should, yes, hit the like button, and you should share this, and you should do all that, so that this channel will grow and people will know. So that this channel will grow and people will know. Incidentally, I got another donation. I want to thank the person. They know who they are. Always comes in handy, you know, things are getting tight on the bill level. Things are getting tight on the technical level, having to keep up with the latest equipment just to get this video out there, just to get it out there, just to be able to get on a computer that's not going tits up and because of their planned obsolescence. So I have to, you know, keep up with what's going on, or circumvent some of the technology that's going on. Like I said in my last video, technology is a bitch. So anyway, this could be the calm before the storm. I mean, you know, that doomsday clock thing they got, they keep moving it up and up and up. And I mean, now it's like 1 second to midnight or something. It's dicey. I mean, that's all I got to say. It's dicey. It's anything could happen any minute. So I'm kind of the viewpoint of like, well, fuck, let's do something here. Ramp it up, baby. Bring it on. Do this shit and get it over with. It's getting old. I don't want to hear about a Ukraine war anymore. And actually, you know, I would like them to fall. I would like that situation to be resolved in a kick-ass way, not in a... There is going to be no diplomacy on this stuff. And if there is, you got to scratch your head and say, man, you know, somebody really reached out. Not that that's impossible. But I think right now the diplomacy is going to come more after the war is, you know, after Ukraine has been decimated. And then the diplomacy might come in as to deciding what kind of government and what's going to happen from this moment forward. Is China going to help rebuild Ukraine? They offer to do that. Anytime anything looks hopeful, like President Xi calling Zelensky and offering to rebuild the country and things of that nature, and holding out an olive branch, any time that comes up, you got the archontic evil element, okay? You got the archontic dark element. You got the archontic interference element. Okay, there we go. There's the best word, the interference in the flow. So anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a second or two, and if you want to make a donation at Spirit of Crazy Horse, or even $1, $2, anything, it doesn't matter. If it's over 10, you get a copy of my book, PDF book. But hell, I could use $1, $2, anything you want to feel like you want to contribute to keeping me on the air, because at certain points I have reflections and think about not going on here at all anymore. So it's up to you, take it for what it's worth. I'll leave that with you. I'll leave on that note. How's that? Adios.